Hello survivors, and welcome to another beginner build. In today's build we are going to be going over the assassin, ways to play him, what I think is the best or ultimate build for beginners for him for Curse 7. So let's get straight into it with the runes. For our runes we are going to be running Weapon Expert, Reroll Mastery, Efficient Extraction, Multicast Mastery, Critical Mastery, Sure-Footed, as well as Versatile Strength. Now do keep in mind that Reroll Mastery and Efficient Extraction have absolutely nothing to do with the power of the build. They're just there because I have space for them, and there isn't really any skill inclination that we can use on this character. Maybe if we wanted we could use Thrust, however we aren't using a lot of Thrust skills, so it's kind of pointless. So let's get straight into the weapon selection from here. For our weapon we are going to be using the curved daggers. That's going to give us 20% critical damage modifier and 10% increased damage modifier as well. We're running sure-footed as a rune, so we don't have to worry about the pushback, and the minus 10 armor is null and void anyway. It's not that important. The skills that we are getting from this weapon are going to be Twin Dagger as well as Backstab. Twin Dagger is going to be one of the biggest skills in our arsenal, with Backstab just being assistant to that. With this in mind, let's get straight over to the skills of the build. So for our 6 skills we will be running Twin Dagger, Backstab, Rupture, Bloodlust, Lightning Bolt, and then for the 6th skill it's going to be between Blade Storm or Shadow Orb, depending on which one you get first and or which one you prefer. With that in mind, let's just go over the skill tree. We are only Prestige 20. You do need to be Prestige 21 for this build to work. So let's go take a look at the skill tree. So as you can see, our skill tree hasn't changed much since last time. The only most important thing that I did is I added on the electric damage from the Elementalist so that we get a lot more damage from Lightning Bolt. But besides for that, there isn't much more out there that's different from our video yesterday, which will be linked down in the description if you want to take a look at that one on the Death Knight. With that in mind, all we really have is the Bounty Hunter, which is extremely important for this build to work, as well as the increased cast frequency, increase in cast frequency for the assassin. So that's what I've gone for with the 4 points that we have available. And with that in mind, let's get straight into the action and start the run. Fantastic, we're off to a beautiful start. It was so good that I actually started a run with the wrong weapon, so here we are. Take 2. Yeah, no, shit happens, guys, unfortunately. Excuse my French if there's others watching that don't necessarily like language, but yeah. So what we've got is our ascension over here. So we will receive an assignment every 60 seconds. By completing it, we will get the following bonuses for 40 seconds. We're going to get a whack ton of cast frequency, movement speed, multicast damage, as well as crit chance. So we are going to be doing a whole whack of damage. We've got ourselves Twin Dagger, which applies weakness without the ambush either. The ambush is going to make it so that we deal a whole lot more damage. So if we hold Q, ambush is going to make it that the enemies get stunned and they are going to be taking a whole lot more damage. And in this case, it's going to go to 670 damage from 135. Where the hemorrhage one, we're going to do 1000 hemorrhage damage whenever we do the ambush, and it's also going to be dealing 2025 damage instead of 400. So it does 5 times more damage if you hit enemies from behind. So that's just something that you need to know for the actual build itself. But there's our Lightning Bolt, which is one of the skills that we will be using. Lightning Bolt is only there so that we get the Dazed, and eventually we will end up getting Doom to Dazed as well, and if you did want to change it, you could. Now we do have our assassin target over there, but you can see we only at 100 of 400 enemies killed. Of for the bosses to spawn. So we're going to leave him just chilling there. We have absolutely no problem with killing enemies in the beginning of the run, so we don't have to worry about that just yet. And we are going to focus on the crit there instead of all the other stats for the skill. Now, the stats for Lightning Bolt aren't very, very important. If that was something like cast frequency for Twin Dagger, it would be a little bit more of a different story. Getting that cast frequency would be very, very good. Now, over here, we are struggling to get the skills that we're looking for. So Chaos Bolt is going to be a very, very good substitute, as well as Chaos Golem. So we're going to grab Chaos Bolt. You are going to sometimes have to decide, you know what, I'm not getting the skills we spoke about. What can we do? We're going to go and grab skills that are going to help with that. So something like Thunderclap is going to be very, very good as well, especially with the cast frequency upgrades that we get. And that Disoriented that we get from it is going to be fantastic. So we're going to grab the damage for Electric over there because we do have versatile strength. And we are getting ever so close to running to actually unlocking our next boss fight. So we are going to have to just keep an eye on the amount of enemies that we have spawned, and just keep an eye out on when those bosses are going to be spawning so that we can deal with that when it comes. So here's Blade Storm. We got it before. We got Shadow Orb. If I find Shadow Orb now, I will end up taking it to replace something like the Thunder Clap or the Bolt, the Chaos Bolt. However, Chaos Bolt is still very good in the build, and sometimes you just need to kind of adjust your build along the lines of what you're receiving and go from there. So there's Shadow Bolt. We're going to get rid of the Thunderclap. The only reason for that is we're not going to be close enough to the bosses without a lot of area of effect, and we're going to, you know, miss an opportunity to do a lot more damage to bosses with that. But there's Rapture. The only thing we're still looking for now is Bloodlust, and I'm going to have to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to take Blade Storm or if I'm going to land up taking Shadow Orb. So now the bosses have spawned. I wasn't paying attention, so you're like, okay, bosses spawned, what do we do? Well, you actually just got to run and kill the assassination target. It's really not going to be that difficult. There you go, he's dead. And now you do want to try and just stay close to the bosses, but also not close enough to really take a lot of damage. And that's going to just help us do even more damage to them. As you can see, their life does drop relatively quickly, and as long as we keep hitting them, we will destroy their faces. So there we go. 3 of the bosses dead, and the last one is the Plague Bearer, which isn't hard at all to kill. So 40 seconds, more than enough time to completely obliterate the bosses, and it just works out fantastic. Now over here we can go for the damage for thrust, we can go for the movement speed, we can, no, we're not going to skip active skills because we're still looking for Bloodlust, some cast frequency, another Gangrene isn't necessary, the crit is going to be more important. Movement speed again is very important. 1 magnetic at this, yeah, magnetic's still good. So magnetic allows you to get more XP as well as pickup range for your gear. I mean, for your you know, XP on the floor. It is very, very useful, especially since XP on the floor is going to be healing us. So, you know, every time we level up, we do heal a little bit. So we want to be able to pick up as much XP as possible throughout the run. Now over here, we are going to pick up 1 of each of these power-ups, and that's because of versatile strength. Each time we pick up something new, like a Venomous over there, it is going to increase our damage. With that in mind, we are going to lock the area of effect on the Blade Storm. As you can see, it is very small, and we would love to have that bigger Blade Storm up and about, so we will grab that. Fantastic. The next target is out. We do have the bosses spawning very soon, so we're going to make our way over to the assassination target. Try and time it so that when we kill him, the bosses are about to spawn. We only have 40 seconds to kill the next set of bosses by the time the ascension target is up and running. So you don't want to kill him too early, and you don't want to kill him while the bosses are up, because otherwise you know, you're gonna have a really hard time getting to him like I just had. So try and get to him before you spawn the bosses. But again, sometimes you don't really have much of an option. Like over there, I was trying to spawn him, and we just struggling to get to him because of the bosses that spawned for us. So we're gonna have to just go and do this, get him away from that corner that he's in. Alright, that is just really unfortunate circumstances, but sometimes it just happens that way. So we were in a really bad spot there, and I think the bosses that we landed up getting are really horrible for what we had to do there. So a lot of AoEs coming from all of them, and that was just terrible. If we had to do this without the Ascension, it would have been even worse, but at least we've got something over here to do there. Now, the Eternal Guardians are actually probably the best characters or the bosses for you to deal with as the assassin, because a lot of the time their attacks cause them to be facing away from you. So being able to hit them even if you don't have your Ascension is actually quite easy. But as you can see, having to be in melee range is quite difficult, very scary, and you can land up dying very quickly. So if you are worried about dying and getting caught out like I was, you can grab yourself something like the Chaos Golem. He is going to be really good here, and you can grab things that are going to be quite good with terms of survivability and keeping you alive, like health and other things like that. But over here we're just going to grab ourselves more crit. We definitely need it. The Relentless is going to be great, even more crit, fantastic. Multicast is going to be fantastic, and more damage for the Blade Storm, just because it is clearing out all the trash mobs for us, and when we're clearing them out, it gives us more opportunities to deal with the bosses. So like I mentioned, even without our Ascension, we are able to backstab those two Eternal Guardians, and that's going to leave us not having to worry about it just yet, or not to worry about it as much as we would have to usually. But now he's again in the stupid corner, so we're going to deal with him now before the bosses spawn. So now when the bosses do spawn, we've already got our Ascension, and we should deal a lot more damage to them from the start, and just deal as much damage to them as possible. Make sure we just dodge half of the attacks. There we go. A much better start to the run, or to the boss fight, than what we had with the others. It just depends on bosses as well. As you can see, these ones died 100 times faster. It really depends on the upgrades you get. It really depends on you know, how close to the bosses you can get, and things like that as well. As you could see from that one, we were able to completely decimate those few bosses, compared to when we didn't have our Ascension up and we died struggling to try and get it. So definitely makes a huge difference. You can visually see it. We fought the next set of bosses, which is supposed to be harder, and it depends on the bosses themselves. If you have a lot of bosses that are going to have huge AoEs that are close to them, it's going to make it more difficult to hit them with the skills that we have chosen. Alright, what we could do now is actually mess around with time. We do have the next set of bosses spawning very soon, and our Ascension isn't up yet. So what you could do is spend a minute running around and trying to not hit as many enemies as possible, and that would allow you to get the Ascension up and running in time, so that the next boss spawn you're going to have it up and about to sort out those bosses and not have to worry about them. And there we got knocked into the Void Presence's attack. That's just fantastic. There's nothing you can really do about that. If that happens to you, that's just how it is. You've got to just accept it and take it like a good person, and just accept that you're going to lose a laugh over there. Alright, so let's go over here. I mean, I'm in 2 mines. We can do 2 things over here. The first thing we can do is actually not even worry about the Ascension right now. We can try and fight the bosses that we've got ahead of us and try and deal with them as is, and make sure that we kind of do as much damage to them as possible. without the ascension, and that's what I'm going to do because we want to try and have that ascension ready for when the next boss fight occurs. And if we don't have it, that's okay as well. However, you can see we're almost at the point where the next set of bosses are going to spawn anyway, so we're going to make our way to the ascension. We're going to kill the target, and that's going to allow us to kill all 8 bosses simultaneously as they spawn, which is going to be fantastic for us. However, we need to just stay away from that other guy because he's going to upset us and deal a lot of damage. Come on, you guys need to die. Fantastic. Death. Good, good, good. There we go. The next set of bosses, I need you to spawn like now. Nope, I have completely mistimed it. Alright, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. It just means we're going to have to chill for about a minute before the next ascension's up, or we'll just do the best we can to try and get behind the targets, because that's what we need to do. And over there, as you can see, with Prophetess using a specific attack, we are able to get behind her while she's using that attack and deal a lot of damage to the boss. So if the bosses do have attacks that are going to make it so that they stay within a certain position without moving around, then that's perfect for us. That's exactly what we need to kill them. So as you can see, even without our ascension, we're still able to deal tons of damage to specific bosses, but it does require your positioning to be relatively good, and that's why we actually rely on the ascension more than not with this character. That's also why he's in a precarious position and why a lot of people don't necessarily like the assassin, because he requires you to be very close to bosses in a very dangerous position, and you can die very, very easily. But as you can see, we did it 10 minutes 22, not a very good time. However, it was a rough second boss wave for us, and that caused us a bit of issues. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, all the way up to about 60 prestige. Fantastic. Twin Dagger, Shadow Orb dealing the most damage, as well as Lightning Bolt. So really, really good. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And always remember, keep safe, survivors. Until next time, cheers.